Don't talk to me every single time.
If a husband were to say something like this without any hesitation, I wonder how a worldly wife would respond. In the past, I might have just gone silent. But now, I'll say it loud and clear.
Saying something like that, I don't care if you regret it.
Today, I want to share my bitter experience with you. My name is Luna, and I'm 44 years old. I spent my 20s and 30s working as an insurance saleswoman, living the life of a career woman. And before I knew it, I was over 40. I met my current husband when I was 43. He also worked in the insurance industry, so we hit it off. With that, I became a full-time housewife. This was my husband's request.
With my salary alone, the two of us should be able to get by just fine, right? You don't need to work so hard.
I had been working tirelessly for almost 20 years since graduating from college, so becoming a full-time housewife was unexpected. But life is truly unpredictable. While my husband did have a good income, his demanding job meant he couldn't help much with household chores. My job was just as demanding with frequent overtime and business trips. After discussing it, we decided that I would be the one to focus on the household.
I'm glad to have you at home, Luna. From now on, please take care of things.
Of course I will. Please take care of me too.
It was a late marriage for both of us. We didn't have the passionate feelings of our youth, but we were living reasonably happily. I would wake up 30 minutes earlier than my husband, prepare breakfast, and after he went to work, I would do the cleaning, laundry, shopping, and prep for dinner. Despite being a workaholic, I found that I didn't get bored when I entered the world of house chores. If you really dive into house chores, you can push it to the limit. When I made my own detergent and meticulously cleaned every nook and cranny of the house, it felt like it had just been built. And as for cooking, if I put in a lot of effort to make delicious food for my husband, it felt like I could make something even better than what was sold in stores. My husband always seemed happy when the house was clean and the food was delicious, and I truly felt that getting married was the right decision. But when did things start to change? It was triggered by something trivial.
My husband came home looking unusually tired, and I greeted him with a smile and said, "Welcome home," just as usual. It was part of our routine.
Normally, he would respond with a smile and say, "I'm home."
But that day, he only replied in a low voice. Ah!
As I picked up my husband's undressed shirt and socks, I asked, "Which would you like, dinner or take a bath?"
I'm tired right now. Can't you tell? So, don't bother asking questions like that when I'm tired.
My husband said this with a very displeased expression. Did I say something strange? But looking at my husband, who furrowed his brow and seemed irritated, I felt that arguing with him would lead to a good outcome. Without looking at my husband, who furrowed his brow and seemed irritated, I felt that arguing with him wouldn't lead to a good outcome.
I'm sorry. I'll go prepare the bath then.
With that, I started to pour the hot water. He must have been really tired. Sometimes people feel like venting their frustrations. I remember that when I was working, I stumbled at work and blamed my partner at the time. It must be temporary. That's what I thought. Now that I think about it, it was my fault for being so clumsy at this point. My husband changed completely after that. Since then, he always seemed irritated at home. He's in his 40s and holds a middle management position. It's a tough period with pressure from both above and below. Now, all I can do as a wife is to maintain a peaceful and comforting home so that my husband can perform at his best at work. I tried various things, like preparing his favorite dishes, changing the bath salts daily to make bath time enjoyable, and making various efforts. But my husband's expression only grew more stern day by day. He eventually stopped responding even to my greetings. We've been married less than 6 months, and yet we're already in a marital crisis. I attempted to talk to my husband.
Hey, what's wrong with you?
He remained silent and sipped on the slightly expensive Japanese tea I had served, still staring at the TV.
Is work tough? You've seemed tired lately.
As soon as I said that, he slammed the teacup he was holding onto the floor. Now, the matching teacup set we received as a wedding gift shattered noisily.
Shut up! Don't talk to me every single time.
I saw my husband this angry for the first time. His eyes were wide, his face was flushed, and his body was trembling. As I tried to pick up the pieces of the teacup so my husband wouldn't get hurt, he looked down at me and said,
You're lucky, aren't you? You're always at home, relaxing, not thinking about anything. You're able to make a living because I work, right?
I couldn't say anything in response.
You don't know how hard I work outside, and every day is a good day for you. You are lucky that you married me. You become a housewife, like a parasite.
The numerous mockings and insults that come out of my husband's mouth. It was my husband's request that I become a housewife, so why should he have to say that to me now? I mumbled at the allegations, which were too contradictory.
Are you drinking alcohol?
But my husband was completely sober. Ironically, I wished he had been drinking. I can't help but be terrified of my husband. You can say such cruel things without a second thought.
Listen carefully. Don't talk to me from now on, alright? I'm tired from work. Just keep quiet and take care of the house. Got it?
I remained silent, bowing my head.
Hey, did you hear me?
Yes.
And then my husband and I stopped talking to each other at all. I thought it would be a transient thing, but it was not. My husband began to treat me as if I didn't exist so that I wouldn't talk to him. When he comes home, he does not touch the food I cook, but instead buys packed food at a convenience store or sometimes even goes out to eat. The only reasons he returned home were to change clothes and take a bath. And when he apparently had already taken a bath somewhere else, he would just crawl into bed as soon as he got home. I was here, but I was treated as if I weren't. For someone like me, who was struggling with my relationship with my husband, it was spiritually draining. As a full-time housewife, I had always thought it was my duty to take care of my husband, but he didn't even treat me as a human being anymore. My appetite dwindled and I lost 5 kilograms. Sleepless nights continued, and I carried out household chores with a perpetually heavy body.
Then my husband said, I'm hardly ever at this house. I don't eat here, and I don't use the bath. So there's no need for me to pay for living expenses and rent, and he stopped giving me even that.
There was no way such reasoning could stand. But my attempts to argue were met with complete indifference. It was as if my words weren't even heard. Disgusted by my husband's behavior of acting as if I were invisible, and having had enough, I began using my savings to cover rent and living expenses. After living like this for about a month, I noticed something. Lately, my health had improved. I slept well, and my appetite returned. Upon closer examination, I realized that my husband would just come home, take a bath, and go to sleep. We even had separate bedrooms. If he wasn't going to eat the meals I prepared, I could simply make something light for myself and use the free time productively. Cleaning didn't need to be done every day, when I was the only one at home during the day, and the laundry was also less when my husband spent more days without using the bath at home.
What am I doing? It's almost like I'm living on my own.
Realizing that, my heart suddenly felt lighter. Luckily, I had saved up enough over the nearly 20 years I had worked. Even if tens of thousands of dollars were flying out each month for living expenses and rent, I still had enough to live comfortably for another 10 years. In my spare time, I tried to study for certification exams and looked for work I could do from home using the knowledge I had gained as an insurance diplomat from my previous job. And then I found a home-based job that would earn me about $300 a month.
$300, huh? Well, if I can do it in my spare time, that's not bad.
For me, it was more about making the most of my free time than the amount of my paycheck. The job involved explaining insurance plans to clients over the phone or video calls. I talked to clients designated by the headquarters, and using the provided materials, I explained the plan in a way that was easy to understand. I used to visit clients in person, but given the current situation, there was an increasing demand for such services to be offered remotely. Once I started working, I found it incredibly enjoyable. I had always enjoyed talking to people and lending a listening ear, so this job was a perfect fit for me. When I used to work as a diplomat, I would visit clients to make my quota. Every time I did that, I got a bad look or was turned away, but this job was easy to do with no such quotas.
I guess I still have it in me.
I remembered the feeling of being needed as a human being and became even more enthusiastic about my job. At first, my salary was only $300 a month, but as I increased my appointments, bookings, and contracts, it gradually went up, and now I can easily earn $600 a month. I was so absorbed in my work that I no longer thought about my husband. Then one day my husband came home unusually early before dinner. Normally he would go home after 10 o'clock, but today it is only 7 o'clock. Did he come straight from work today? Well, I don't really care anymore. My husband let out an exaggerated sigh and then said to me, "Hey, dinner!"
He said it with a grumpy tone, almost like he was spitting it out.
But I was deeply engrossed in reading the details of a new insurance plan I had received from the company, and I had no time to pay attention to my husband.
Hey, I said dinner. Are you deaf?
He raised his voice and approached me in a threatening manner. But, you see, I'm not the same person I used to be.
I'm busy, you know.
Surprisingly, a cold voice came out of me. My husband seemed so surprised that he couldn't say anything more.
So I'm busy. Can't you see? I'm in the middle of work.
My husband's expression suddenly turned into one of panic.
Huh? Oh, I see.
He visibly broke into a cold sweat, and his lips trembled slightly. And I continued,
If you're hungry, prepare your own meal. I'm not free either.
I said this and returned to my work, leaving my husband standing there alone.
Oh, sorry.
My husband suddenly shrank like a borrowed cat. Perhaps to avoid bothering me, he quietly moved to the kitchen and served himself. He looked just like a thief cat, and I almost burst out laughing. After that day, my husband remained anxious throughout.
Luna, where's the soy sauce?
It's on the dining table. You can see it if you look.
Oh, you're right. Sorry about that.
I found it funny that my husband would say such things in a cat-like voice, as if he were trying to get a good look at my face. And for some reason, he started coming home early. I completely ignored him, no matter what time he came home.
Hey, Luna, dinner?
My husband cautiously spoke again, as he looked at the unlit kitchen.
You said you don't eat at home. That's why I didn't make any.
Did I really say that? Tessa.
Sweat started to form on my husband's face. He immediately pulled out a handkerchief from his pocket. I wondered what was so funny, but I realized it was a forced laugh to cover up the awkwardness. He must be aware of all the wrong he's done until now. With that mind, I told him,
You told me. I don't eat at home, and since I'm not even at home to begin with, I won't even pay the living expenses. What? Did you forget what you said? Are you okay? Are you already senile at your age?
In the past, my husband would have strongly retorted, but I'm not afraid of anything anymore, because I'm just telling the facts. I'm the one paying for the rent, utilities, and all the miscellaneous expenses in this house. And would you please refrain from eating or using things in the house without permission?
But this is my home, isn't it?
I say it as if to cover my husband's weak words.
Your home. Don't make me laugh. How can you say it's your home without putting a penny in it?
Yeah, yay.
My husband collapsed on the spot, and for some reason he was rubbing the floor with the handkerchief he had. Is he cleaning the floor? I almost burst out laughing at his inexplicable behavior, but I held it in. Then my husband said this in a low voice.
Luna, what's wrong with you? You were so kind to me. If you're cold to me, I can't live like this anymore.
Can a grown man like him cry so miserably? He started sobbing like a little girl scolded harshly by her parents, tears streaming down his face.
I love you, Luna, but it's so sad to be treated like this.
Love? Those words make me feel sick. It seems like I have to make it clear to this insensitive man.
How can you say such a thing after you have treated your wife so badly? You haven't forgotten what you did and what you said, have you?
I told him this while giving my husband a contemptuous look. Like a lamb cornered by a lion, my husband began to tremble uncontrollably. But the words that came out were these.
I'm sorry. I admit that I took it out on you because I was busy at work and things were going wrong. But it was a really tough time for me.
Saying this, my husband explained in detail about the difficult tasks he had been assigned at work, and how he had been desperately trying not to be pushed out of the promotion race.
I'm going to change from now on. So please forgive me. I'm like this.
My husband bowed his head to the floor, begging for my forgiveness. So was that floor scrubbing earlier just a way for me to apologize on my knees? I can't help but be strangely impressed by my husband's preparedness.
I only have you. Please.
If it had been the old me, I might have forgiven him here. Just a little bit out of my mind due to work stress. Everyone goes through that, right? So from now on, let's support each other as a couple, okay? But my foolish husband's misdeeds don't end here.
I know everything, you know?
Fe?
I handed over the investigation report that arrived from the private detective agency this morning. It detailed my husband's another misdeed.
26 years old. A hostess working at the snack bar near the station.
Ha!
My husband tried to snatch away the investigation report I had, but he slipped on a handkerchief lying on the floor and fell spectacularly.
It seems you were very devoted to this person. I heard you hid your marital status from her and even approached her about marriage.
Why did my husband suddenly become cold to me and come home late? It was because he had fallen for this hostess. My husband fell in love at first sight at a snack bar. He happened to stop by on his way to a company's social gathering, and he frequented the bar often to make a strong appeal. However, she never really paid any attention to my husband from the beginning. Still, after continued efforts, they managed to start dating, and my husband often went to her house. He even had dinner and took baths at her place. However, when she found out through mutual acquaintances at my husband's workplace that he was already married, she immediately decided to break up with him. When my husband kept insisting, "I'm divorcing my wife," she told him, "If you ever come near me again, I'll call the police," and broke up completely.
You just came back because you were dumped by that woman, didn't you? Don't make a fool of me. Who would stay with you?
Yes.
My husband seemed to hit a nerve. To my husband in that state, I handed over a piece of paper.
Here, please write this as soon as possible. And I'll also demand alimony for your affair.
Divorce. An alimony? That's not...
My husband looked at me in a daze,
Is there really no other way? Will I be all alone?
and he started sobbing again. With no emotions left for this man, I just stared back at my husband in silence.
You're disgraceful. If you didn't want a divorce so badly, why did you act that way? Why did you cheat? Pathetic man.
Even if I'm pathetic, can't I have another chance?
No way. Don't underestimate the world.
My words hit my husband like a hammer, and he was completely knocked out. And the final blow.
Please write this quickly. I want to become a stranger to you as soon as possible.
My husband alternated between the divorce papers and me, displaying an expression of despair.
Afterward, we divorced with all the responsibility falling on my husband.
In addition to my husband's numerous words and actions, along with the affair, I was able to claim a substantial amount of alimony. The teacup that my husband threw and broke, the diary I kept, and the investigation report from the credit agency. All the evidence was on my side. Furthermore, it seems that my husband was also demanded alimony by his mistress, who was his affair partner. She was afraid that she might be sued by me. But when I learned that she could avoid liability if she did not know that he was a married man, and that she could claim alimony, she demanded it from him through her lawyer. Who would have thought of such a cunning move? The alimony issue and the messy divorce drama with his wife became a topic of conversation at his company, and he was completely ousted from the race for promotion. Well, it serves him right. If you do bad things, they will come back to haunt you. It was truly a case of karma in action. After that, I did quite well in the insurance work I was doing from home and was hired as a full-time employee. Despite my age, I had a career as an insurance agent, and my own motivation was recognized. After ending my married life, I returned to being a career-oriented person. However, I do not consider the past year to have been a waste. Life is a lot of things, and I never get tired of it. I consider it an experience that gave me wisdom for seeing through the true nature of such a despicable man.
Insurance is important, you know? You never know what will happen in life.
My words, coming from someone with experience in divorce, seem to resonate with customers and lead to contracts. I live every day to the fullest, as if those days of agony were just a distant memory.